What's up and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to look at creating a door schedule. And this is going to be my kind of door schedule, the things that I like to see in a door schedule, things that I'm typically used to seeing, and some things that you will definitely have to have in a door schedule. It's not hard to make, but there are a number of steps that we have to go through to make sure we have all of the different parameters and data that we might need to put into the schedule. So if at any point in this video you happen to learn something, which I hope you do, please demolish that like button. It really helps me out quite a lot. Also consider subscribing. That does as well too. Okay, so I'm just in a basic sample project in Revit. We've seen this before. This is nothing special. We don't care about this, but we like this because it has doors. I love this. So the first thing I want to take you to is not necessarily to create a door schedule, but I first want to take you to the project parameters, specifically because this project has none. And the point is here, we're going to have to create some, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's pretty typical when it comes to making schedules, capturing data, and please, something I will say in this video is we're going to make what I believe is a good looking door schedule, a door schedule that has the data that I believe that a door schedule should have. That's not to say you can't disagree, or you have to do this, but take the principles in this video that we cover, that we go over, that you might learn, and then apply that to your projects, what is required for those projects, and so on. So very good place. Okay, so yeah, we do want to make the schedule. So let's go to view, schedule, schedules here. I'm just going to type in D. There's my door schedule. Fantastic. What phase? I'll make sure that we just use the working drawings because that's really what we care about. We want to basically pull the doors from the correct phase. Press OK, and immediately we need to start adding some fields into our schedule. And so what are some things that I like to see? Well, I like to see everything that's pretty typical. You know, basically, how do you want to schedule this? Do you want to have a door number? Do you want to have the width, the height, like all those types of things? But before all of that, this is a decision that you have to make. And just know that you can make the decision, you can change and basically flip-flop, or you can choose both. And the options that you have here are, do you want to schedule your doors per instance? Basically, every single door shows up no matter what. Or do you want to schedule them by type, whereas every single type of door will show up, and therefore not every single door will show up in your schedule. So there are obviously pros and cons to either of them. We don't really need to go through them because you probably understand the concept of type versus instance. Do you want to see them all, or do you want to see just the type? That's kind of up to you. Now, I've done projects where I will say most of my projects are instance, so where every single door shows up as a single line regardless. That's fine. It can be a pain to deal with, but here's where I typically think of going by type as opposed to by instance, and that is where I have a ton of the same door, like exactly the exact same door. A good example of this might be a multifamily project or a hospitality project like a hotel, things like that, where you know that every single unit is going to have that exact same door, or maybe there's 2 or 3 different types of doors that are prominent throughout the whole project. That's kind of where I would want to do it. And the reason why is that I can edit the parameters of that one type of door in a single place, basically for all the doors, and all the doors are taken care of, and it shows up as one single easy to read line item in the door schedule. Cool. That's fine. Like I said, you could do it the other way, where every single door shows up, even if it's the exact same. I've done that before too. Maybe because I have probably had half the doors that are completely different too, so it just makes sense to do that. And then finally, there's a hybrid version where you end up having multiple door schedules, but one is by instance, one's by type, and you might have multiple by instance or multiple by type. It's kind of up to you. But in the end, you have parameters that apply to instance-based doors, and then you have parameters that are by type. And so we obviously, if you've made parameters before, you know that a parameter is either by instance or type. And so as we create these parameters, we're going to have to go one way or the other. So for the sake of this video, just know I'm going to go by instance. And so that's kind of the default that everyone is probably used to seeing and used to working with, which is why I'm doing this. But just know you can make double the amount of parameters, one of them being instance, one of them being type. Another thing you can do, of course, is to create a second schedule at that point, you can choose an instance and a type. You can work with both of them that way, and just know that you can do everything. You can do all of this, but I'm just going to work by type. Okay. So knowing that, these are all by type. This by default. These are just by type, or I'm sorry, these are just by instance. So whenever I look at this mark, I want to first add this mark value. This is basically just saying, what is the door number, essentially. We're going to rename this stuff later, so not a big deal. The next thing I like to do is work with the width. And then, of course, similarly, the height. And, of course, this is these things are going to be pretty locked in, and they're probably going to be pulled from the type. So just know that these aren't going to change per door, even if it's the same door. So that's pretty good to know. Something else I like to use is the thickness. Most of these are going to be pretty standard stuff that'll be kind of baked into the door itself. And then finally, we get into some different things. And that's just based on some things I like to add. And I'm going in order from left to right, ultimately, where I want to see things in a schedule. So we'll end up coming back here in a second. So this is great. Yes, I've added it, and this is exactly what we're used to seeing. Cool. Because this is a sample project, I want to make sure that my project units are exactly where they should be. And of course, let's go to make sure my links are in feet and fractional inches. This is very typical. Press OK, and there we go. I like this a lot more. I am in the United States. This is what we would expect to see. Okay. All right. So this is not taking into account any sorting, anything like that, any pretty looking anything yet. Okay. So then we go to project parameters, and this is at the point where we need to start adding them ourselves. And so let's make a new one. Again, I want this to be by instance, and I really only want this to be for doors. So I'm going to immediately have instance and doors checked. Obviously, make sure it's a project parameter. In this case, that's really what we care about. And then finally, the text. I just want this to be text. There's really nothing fancy about this. You can try and get more fancy later on, but text it's very simple, very easy to handle. And so I'm going to call this door panel because we ultimately want to schedule values that apply to the door panel and probably the door frame, so like kind of separate. So you'll see how this is broken out in the end. So door panel, I don't want to have it just be called the door panel, but I do want to have this door panel type. So basically what type of door panel, and this is typically going to be some sort of a material. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and do that. So great, we have that. The next thing I want to look at is also door panel related. So I'll call this door panel underscore and then the actual material of the door panel. So material, great. And again, I want to make sure this is door and then text and of course instance, great. So there we go. And then finally, one more time, let's make one more door panel that is the actual finish, because in some cases, the material, the type of the door panel, the type is different than the material, and the material is sometimes different than the finish. So all of these types of things that are potentially things that we need to worry about and be able to schedule very easily. And text is a great way of doing that. And then, yes, so we've got the type, the material, the finish. And then I like to say, well, is there glazing on this or not? And that, of course, applies to the door panel. That will not apply to the door frame, because if you have a glass door frame, you probably don't have a door panel, and then glazing. Of course, by instance, make sure this is text once more. We'll go back down to door, and cool. So we have these four, and these are all going to apply to door panel. So let's press OK. And you'll notice as soon as I come back in here, we can see, oh, all these door panel parameters are available to us. So again, let's add our door type, our material, our finish, and then glazing. So we can see all these types of things. So cool. Like, we're starting to fill this out now. Just know this is all text, and I'm not necessarily going to input data in this video for all these fields. That would be a little much, because I'm not trying to do the door schedule for the Revit standard project by any means. So let's go back to our parameters. And now, similarly to door panel, I want to make door frame, because that's exactly what it is. And you can name these whatever you want, obviously, because it's up to you. But I would make sure that you name these something where you can find them easily and keep them organized basically. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did with the panel, but with door frames as well, because of course we might have the same situation where we have different materials, colors, finishes, whatever it might be. So there we are, material, instance, text, and then make sure this is a door. Awesome. Do this once again, door type, door frame. We will make sure this is finish. Door, text, wonderful. Need to rename this to door frame because that's what it is. So we have our door type, material, and finish. And obviously, like I said, we don't have glazing on our frame, most likely. So that's fine there. So I press OK. And let's go ahead and again, add these into our schedule. So we've got the door type, door frame material, and door frame finish. I like this a lot. So you can start to see we're building this out. A couple other things that I like to see are actual details, because let's be honest, you need to detail probably the head, the sill, and the jamb conditions for likely all of the doors. You might have some other details that pick it up, but in the door schedule is a great place to document where you have all of this, because that's where it makes sense. When you're looking at a particular door, you can see, okay, well, the door sill, the detail for this specific door is going to be right there, which is really nice. So again, more parameters. It's a lot, but it's the type of thing that you'll get used to, and hopefully you can put it in a template and not have to do this every single time. So again, I'm going to call this door, just for organization purposes, door detail sill, door. And like I said, these are just going to be text. It's going to be really easy to deal with. Door detail jamb, door once again, and text. Nice thing is that it automatically groups under text as well. So all of these will be in one single place when we look at this on an actual door. And then finally, door detail head, instance, looking at doors again, and then text. Great. So cool. I'm going to add these here, finally come back into my schedule, and we will add this in the order that makes sense. Sill, jamb, head. Nice. Like this. Okay, so yeah, this is long. It's kind of a pain, but we're going to get to organizing this a bit more. So a couple other things that we really care about when it comes to doors is obviously fire ratings. Like, this is obvious. So you're going to find fire rating right here. This is a default parameter that's going to show up no matter what. So cool. We add that. Nice. There's my fire rating. I also like to add a couple of other things here, which is specifically STC. So you can call this door underscore STC. So this is just an STC sound transmission class rating for doors. If you need this, if you don't, it's there, which is really great. Obviously, we want this to fall under doors too, and then text. So this is just something we're going to input later on. And then also, while we're here, I'll do door, and because you're probably going to have some kind of a hardware set, we can call this hardware set. So again, the same type of thing, but for all the information that we might need for a door. So lots here. Again, we can add these now, door STC, and then the hardware set. Cool. One other thing I like to add that I will do now is just a basic notes tab, because maybe you have notes per door, maybe not. That's going to be up to you, but a lot of these will be blank in the end, even when we have a finished door schedule. But I do have the option of adding a particular note to a particular door if I need to. So I like this because this is now giving me everything that I might need to see within a door schedule. Let's close these up a bit so they're a bit more readable. Cool. And so the next thing I want to do is not so much the sorting, but the format. I just want to change this name. So from mark to door number, like, again, you can change this. This can be absolutely anything that you want. It really does not matter at all. You'll see what I'm doing here in a second. I'm going to call this just type, this just material. You might say, oh, I have a panel and a frame that have both of these same names. Yes, you will see in just a second what we're doing, because it will make sense, I promise. I'm trying to make this as easy to read as possible, as easy to understand, and organized all at the same time so that anyone looking at this can understand what all the data is. I want to make sure this is capitalized because everything else is. Cool. STC, GC rating, things like this, hardware set, very simple. And then finally, just basic notes. Cool. So, all right, that is much easier to read. So let's actually organize this a bit more. So this looks like what we might see. So like I said, we have type and then we have type. So like, what is going on here? Well, I'm going to select all of these different fields here all the way to glazing, and we know this is a part of the door panel. So let's go to our modify tab up here and actually group these together. I don't want to save this yet. So it's great because I now have basically another header up here that's just helping me organize this a bit more. So let's call this door panel. So you remember, I basically removed the word door panel from all of these. And then likewise, I'm going to do the exact same thing here for all of this because this is all door frame. Great. So door frame. So this is immediately looking quite organized. And so I'm actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to ungroup this, and all of this is going to be part of the door frame. And you'll see why here in a second, because technically the sill, jamb, and head are all, they're details, but they're a part of the actual door frame. And so that makes sense here. On top of that, these are details and these are not. So let's actually go ahead and make essentially another group here and call these details or door details, whatever you want them to be. Details is perfectly fine. So look at this. This is immediately a lot more organized and, in my opinion, much more readable. I like this a lot. So I'm going to highlight this. Let's go to font. I definitely like this to be bold. So this is a lot more readable now. I'm actually going to go ahead and make a new sheet. I know this is not a huge deal, but let's look at it on a sheet because that will definitely make at least a small difference. At the end of the day, you can see it here. This is quite nice. Obviously, I need to fix some of these adjustments. I really like seeing every single door on a single line. Like, it just makes sense to me. This is really nice. This is basically capturing everything that I want to capture. And so now I can freely fill all of these different text parameters out in the schedule if I want to. I can do it here, or where do we find all this information? Well, if I click on literally any door, so where's a good door that we can click on? Maybe the entry door. Of course, there's not a door there. There is one. There's a door right here. So let's expand this and we can see, hey, look, text. This is all of my information. And yeah, it's a lot, but it's all here. It is really all here. And then of course there's my mark value, which will show up as my door number. A couple things that we don't have here are the fire rating. Okay, that's one thing. And that's good to know, right? If I go into the type, so just know that the fire rating itself was pulled from the type. There it is. So you'll know this because let's say we're coming in here and let's say the sill detail is 01A8.01. Let's just say that's the detail that the sill is. Okay. Now, if I come to fire rating and I say, well, this needs to be a 45-minute door, you're going to see this. It says this change will be applied to all elements of type that. And so this immediately tells me and should tell you that this is a type parameter. And if I press OK, we can see, hey, those are all the different, basically these are all the same doors. They share all of the information. Something else I like to do is with every kind of basic value here, I like to center everything. And I don't want to center necessarily the notes or maybe even the hardware. Yeah, maybe the hardware set. I don't want to center anything that has like numbers, but a good way of doing that is just selecting all those and then centering them. So it makes sense. You can see this, it reads a little better. This is very nice. Something else like visually that I like to do for door schedules, we can find in my appearance here. I don't come to the appearance a lot, but I do like to stripe rows, and we can check that right there and press OK, and we can immediately just see that this is easier to read, and even striping it on this sheet is really helpful. It's nice. Something else, You can, again, this is all up to you. I do like to actually have my entire mark value, my door number bolded. So do that if you want. I also don't mind if they're red because it jumps out a bit. So I can come here, just simply change the color, and basically every other door that is added will have a door number that is bold and red, which is cool. This is a lot. It's really easy to read on a sheet, on the screen, everything like that. Of course, let's make this big enough. You can decide from here at what point and how far you want to take this, but I like this a lot. You can even group other elements here because technically it's all a part of the door, but that type of thing. We probably want to make this a little bit larger, but again, that is kind of up to you. We're at the point where it is all about filling out the rest of the door schedule with the actual information that we're used to seeing. So I like the way this looks. And then from there, that's kind of up to you. So again, we have everything here that is by default instance based, which is really nice because I can click on all these doors and see that, yes, I can fill all of them out. And because they're instance based, I can take this a step farther. And I do this a lot of times, if I am doing only instance-based door schedules, and this would apply to any schedule that is instance-based, is that we can make a key schedule. I'm not going to go through actually everything when it comes to key schedules, but if I do come back down the doors, I can do a schedule keys, and it's exactly that. So I can add all of these text fields here, which would make it really easy for me to ultimately add these values to. So here we go. So it's going to come in blank like this. And unfortunately, I can't have this renamed to everything like it was in the door schedule by default, but I would look to do that. So how do we do this really? Well, let's do one example, and maybe this is just a basic door. Obviously, you're going to have a more detailed name than this. But like I said, maybe the STC rating is 30. Maybe we come in here and we see that the sill detail is again 0, 01, and then maybe this one is on A8.02. Cool. And then let's go ahead and make sure, this is what I like to do. I like them to be as close together as possible. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, things like that. And so assuming you filled out the rest of this information, how do we do this? How do we get this to fill out in the schedule? Well, I can click this door right here. Obviously, you just need to find a way of selecting the door, whether it's this one or not. This is a good example here. But now, and so if we come all the way down, we can see within the identity data that we have something called door style. And you'll know that because we literally made a door style schedule, like it's called door style. And then at that point, of course, select it again. We can see that door style, we can select between all of the different types of, let's call it, door styles that I've made. In this case, let's click on basic. And as soon as I do that, you can see all of this information that is in the key schedule is grayed out. And we cannot select anything with that door. We can't add or change or do anything with that information because it's pulling from the key schedule. You can see all these equal signs and where it's coming from. You can see when I highlight over or hover over it, parameters set by key schedule. They're all grayed out. I can't edit anything here. So this is good and bad in a sense, to where it's good because I might have 10 different doors that are the exact same door and have the same information, and I want to use an instance-based instance-based schedule. So that's exactly what I would do. I'd make a key schedule. I'd make a different type of door and fill out all the information that way. Again, this will apply to any type of instance-based schedule you have in the whole project, which is great. Now, obviously updating this is really simple and really cool. Maybe if I move this detail and it becomes detail 5, well, what do I need to do? Well, absolutely nothing, because that detail 5 is already updated right there. It's fantastic, really easy stuff. So that's cool. Now, how does that look in the schedule? Well, it looks exactly like this. And again, I cannot change this information here because it's based on the key schedule. It's basically just now reporting everything to the door schedule. I love this a lot until I'm trying to use this and fill in information with Dynamo, because when you have key schedules involved, that's very difficult. So just be aware of that. Using Dynamo with key schedules, whenever you're trying to just fill in information in a regular door schedule, is going to be really hard and really difficult to work with. So I would avoid using key schedules if you're filling in door schedule information or overriding, updating with Dynamo. That is a big thing. Obviously, you can use both key schedules and Dynamo together, but it's just a lot more to deal with. So just be aware of that. Cool. And like I said before, if I wanted to select, let's say, these doors, I can come back to 3D and say, okay, yeah, they're all selected, all 6 of them. And again, I can come down here to the door style and then choose basic, and then all this information will be filled out, and then suddenly, boom, it's all done in the door schedule. Like, it's very easy. Just decide in the beginning, do you want to work with multiple doors and like every single door showing up, or by door type? And it's usually going to be based on project and things like experience. And at that point, you just make the decision. Now, if I wanted to take this and make it into a type, I have to go into every single one of those parameters and change this to a type. Well, in fact, I can't do that. So I'm basically making all the new parameters again. That's totally fine. But I can also do the same. I've done this before too, where I have these exact same, and I do door probably _I or _inst or something like that to denote that particular parameter is an instance base. And I would have basically the rest of the name of the parameter be the same, but except it would be door _type or ty or t, and then everything else be the same, but it's just a type parameter. So you can do this exact same thing twice using double the parameters and being able to report separately. It's just a matter of where all those parameters are coming from, how they're reporting, and everything like that. So something else I like to do when it comes to sorting, obviously we want to sort. A lot of times, if I have levels that are very different, I would sort by levels. I might have a different schedule entirely if I have a project that has very specific doors on levels, things like that. But something I like to do, because I don't have different levels here and I don't really care to do that, well, we might as well add them. Let's go ahead and do that, just so I can show you how I might split it up. I can do this. I don't want to see level like at all, so I will hide it, but it basically just allows me to sort. So I can sort there. I can make this a header. I want to make a blank line. I think there might just be 2 levels in this project, but then I would definitely want to sort by my mark value. And then after that, that's kind of up to you. After that, I really don't care. But if you're doing instance based, make sure, and thankfully this is checked by default, itemize every instance, because if not, you won't be doing an instance based and it won't show you what you want to see. So here we go. We've got 2 levels and it makes perfect sense. Some of these doors do, some of them don't based on their names. And I see this a lot of times as a great way of checking doors, whether they're right or not. Zooming in here, I can see, hey, this door number is 201A, 201B, and this is on level 1. Does that make sense? Typically no, because every single door on level 1 would probably start with a 1, whether it's 1,000 or 100, whatever. That's up to you. But that's, again, this is really all up to you. But looking at this, you can easily see, well, yeah, these doors probably don't belong here, which is great. So where are these doors? If we wanted to really just check this out, well, they are in fact, they appear to be on level 2, even though they are on level 1. Do I care about this? No, I'd probably just go as far as changing the name or the mark value. That's totally up to you. Given all of that, we have created what I believe, a nice looking door schedule that is instance based, requires a lot of parameters, but looks very good. At the end of the day, there's a lot to fill out, but you know where it all is. It's all here. It's all within the model of the door itself. So please leave me any questions that you have in the comments below about the way you do door schedules. If you have any tips on how, whatever you've done on your door schedules, if you recommend something else, removing things, if you split things up into multiple schedules, I don't know, because it's possible you have a door detail schedule. I don't know. I've done lots of different things, but I find this a really nice way of organizing my doors. Whether it is instance or type makes no difference. Just know that there are giant differences in how you have to schedule them out just based on your models and where the parameters are. So that will do it for this video. We looked at creating a door schedule. I know it's a lot. There's a lot here, but if you have to watch it again, that's fine. Just kind of take note on the different parameters that we made, why we made them, and then the organization. Obviously, the instance and type base is very important too, so pay attention to that. And I will say again, if you did learn something in this video or you just enjoyed it, please demolish that like button. It really helps me out quite a lot. I will see you in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions. I will answer them all. I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.